Hey everybody, it's Nick. Today I thought we'd talk a little bit about my first rental property. I get asked a lot, like your first deal, or how did it go, or how'd you find it? So I thought we'd put together a little video on it, and think maybe there's some key points we can pull out of it. My first one is a little rental property here in San Antonio, a little 3-bed, 2-bath, 1-car garage. I actually found it on the MLS. Now, it was a few years ago. There was probably quite a few more deals on the MLS at the time, but a lot of times people tell me, "Man, it's just taking so long," or it took me almost a year to find the first one. But you got to stick with it, right? Key point: you got to stick with it and keep going, and you will find one. It took me a long time to get going. Obviously, it's a little more frequent than that now, but took almost a year to find the first one. And the other thing that I hear is, it's so hard. I'm just nervous. What if I do? What if I mess it up? What if I make a mistake? I had all the exact same feelings. So the big key is you have to trust yourself that you're going to get it done, and you've got to pull the trigger when you feel like it's right, not waiting for some perfect thing to come along, that some shining star that you've never seen before type of deal. But real estate agent helped me find it. Contracted the house, bought the house. It did need some work, so got it a little bit undervalued. And when I say it needed some work, it needed like floors and painting, and I think like a toilet and maybe a faucet. And I honestly, I felt like this was the biggest rehab project in the history of rehabbing houses. It turned out it wasn't, but you learned a ton of stuff, right? So it wasn't a huge project, even though it felt like a bigger project to me at the time. But it wasn't a huge project, which lots of times I would recommend, your first deal maybe not being $100,000 rehab on some giant project. Find something that you can manage and get some guys to work on. And then basically bought the house, got in there, fake it till you make it. Found some contractors that came over and helped me out. They actually did a good job. Set them a budget, and they finished the painting and the flooring and whatever rehab needed to be done, get ready, and then just put it up and listed it for rent. And I was super nervous, like, no one's ever going to rent my house. I'm just going to have this extra house. It's over vacant. It wasn't at all the case. Sign in the yard and a couple ads that I posted out there, and a lot of people called. And I reached out to some people who had a bunch more experience with rental property at the time, and they kind of gave me some tips on where to put it and then how to screen people. And I got super lucky because the first tenants that I put in there were fantastic. And they came in, rented the house for a few years. And, I had a lot more experience, by the time that they finally moved on to wherever they needed to be, and continued to rent that house out, I don't know, for a few more years and a couple more people. And did eventually sell it, just because I felt like the market was right and it was time to sell that property. But I guess I would say, if you're having trouble finding the deal or the first deal, stick with it. It will get there. It's hard for almost everybody in the beginning, but keep going and keep going. And then when you find something that meets the criteria, it doesn't have to be the greatest deal in the history of time. Okay, you're going to learn a ton from that first project. So when you feel like it's right, trust your instincts and pull the trigger. One of the reasons I like a rental property is one of your first investments is, even if you have a few mistakes or a few slip-ups, if you rent that property over time, it gives you a chance to, it's not such a huge mistake. You can level that out over time and still do really well with your investment. I feel like it helps reduce the risk a little bit. Other than that, it's just, you got to pull the trigger. When you feel like it's right, pull the trigger and execute. You're going to learn so much, and you're going to be so much better for number 2 and then number 3, and as you go along. And that's pretty much the story. So hope you liked it. Hopefully you pull a couple of points out of there, and we will talk soon.